Now, one problem I always have with making YouTube videos is that a lot of ideas I get are cool, but don't always work for a whole video. Usually it's not enough, even though some of them are very interesting. And so today we will take a look at a bunch of smaller Breath of the Wild theories. And some of these are quite shocking. So let's dive right in. And if you like this idea, be sure to let me know by leaving a like and telling me about it in the comments. Now for our number one, we will look at one specific character in the game that everyone absolutely loves, Hetsu. But before we start, we have something to celebrate. Something big. Yes, you guessed it, Raid Shadow Legends 2-year anniversary! Woo! And it gets even better, we have a cake to celebrate this wonderful occasion! Look! Whoa! Well, that didn't go too well, but who cares? Hey, look at this! Raid has some new upcoming content! Aside from being the #1 RPG in the US, of course, and having 1 million people log in every day, they now also have 6 straight weeks of events and tournaments because of their anniversary. They even launched their first ever clan versus clan tournament. Personally, I love the campaign in the game because it becomes more and more challenging the further you get, requiring you to build the perfect team and even swap out some others at times to counter certain foes. So what are you waiting for? Join this awesome community and experience everything Raid Shadow Legends has to offer together with all the other players. And if you want a head start, then click the link in the description or scan the on-screen QR code and you will get a free epic champion called Jotun, 100k silver, 50 gems, and 3 ancient shards so you can get more champions right away. And you will find extra rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. So click the link in the description and I'll see you in the game. Now, let's continue the video. Now, when Link encounters a Korok, it believes that it has been found by Hetsu, before realizing that it's actually Link and not Hetsu at all. At that point, the Korok will give you a Korok seed and asks you to return it to Hetsu. Now, for quite a while you don't encounter him, but when traveling to Kakariko Village, you finally encounter him. And upon finding him, he will be very surprised that you can even see him. And he says that the last time anyone was able to see him at all was 100 years ago. Now, the reason why that's odd for him is because Hylians normally can't see Koroks at all. However, it is shown that fairies can. And that's because Ina, who lives at the Tabanta Bridge stables, reveals that a male fairy friend of hers told her about Hetsu. Now, in the end, you help him out and encounter him every now and then during your adventures, allowing you to trade those precious Korok seeds for more inventory space, which Hetsu can do with his magic. But it requires seeds. Clearly, he's a bit of an odd fellow. However, there's always one thing that kind of intrigued me. What kind of being is Hetsu? Clearly, he isn't just some normal Korok. He's more than that because he's a lot bigger and can even use magic. So what is he? Well, I got a couple of ideas when it comes to this. 2, actually. So let's start with the first one. Now, it could be that Hetsu is actually some sort of child of the Great Deku Tree, being similar to the thing we saw in Ocarina of Time. I'm talking about the Deku Tree Sprout, which you encounter after awakening Soraya as the Forest Sage. In this game, the original Deku Tree actually died because of Ganondorf. But after breaking the Forest Temple's curse, a new Deku Tree Sprout was able to pop up. Now, in the end, the Deku Tree Sprout inherits the Great Deku Tree's memories and knowledge. So it's possible that the Great Deku Tree reincarnated into the Deku Tree Sprout. Or they share memories. And because that is possible, it could also be that Hetsu is similar to the Sprout seen in Ocarina of Time. But this time, in Breath of the Wild, the original Great Deku Tree hadn't died. It's clear that he's different and more powerful than the normal Koroks after all. But I will admit, there isn't a lot of proof that this is the case. Almost none, actually. However, this isn't our only option, because it could also be that he's actually some sort of sage, like Soraya. She's the Sage of Forest, being some sort of holy protector of those lands, as well as the Sacred Realm. And while she was a Kokiri, there was also another like her seen in the Wind Waker, who was actually a Korok. He lives in the Forest Haven and does only one thing: play his violin. But this Korok named Makar is later revealed as the Sage of Wind and actually the successor to Fado the Kokiri. The mark of this is in his violin, which is identical to Fado's and is known as an instrument of fate. And later on he uses this sage power combined with this instrument to enhance the power of the Master Sword. And it could be that Hetsu is also a sage of sorts. That's why he has an instrument as well, and uses it when performing magic. To be honest, this one is a better fit than the Deku Tree theory, mostly because both of them use an instrument and have magical powers. Now on to our next theory. Where are the sages in Zelda Breath of the Wild? Are they even in the game? For the people who don't know, the Sages are a group from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, A Link to the Past, and some other games. They are powerful magical allies of Link, and in a lot of games they help seal Ganondorf away in the Sacred Realm. And each one of them represents one of the 6 races of Hyrule, being Hylian, Kokiri, Goron, Zora, Sheikah, and Gerudo. But in other games, it seems like they can be whatever race. In A Link to the Past, for example, they all seem to be Hylians. But where are they in Breath of the Wild? Well, personally, I have one theory for this, and it all has to do with one of the big DLC packs for the game. The Trial of the Sword. This is a shrine-like mini-dungeon unlocked during a side quest, which is all part of the game's DLC. Now when Link approaches the Master Sword's pedestal in Korok Forest, the Great Deku Tree asks him to place the sword back into its pedestal to awaken its true splendor and to face the trial, which consists of being dropped in a room, fighting a bunch of enemies that are there, and then working your way through these rooms, collecting more and more gear along the way. And at the very end of it all, you encounter 7 Sheikah monks who are tasked by Hylia with preparing this trial, which would allow the hero to fully awaken the true power of the Master Sword once completed. In the end, the monks allow him to reclaim the Master Sword with its true power fully awakened, which causes the Master Sword to remain permanently in its true, glowing state. Clearly, Link has proven himself at that point. And now the interesting thing is, there are exactly 7 of them, which may be a reference to the 7 wise men or 7 sages, both of which are depicted as holy men and women that have an association with the Master Sword. And personally, I do think they are actually sages, because usually they either help with sealing away Ganondorf, which we see in Ocarina of Time, or powering up the Master Sword, which we saw in The Wind Waker. And because Zelda has the Triforce in Breath of the Wild, she can easily seal Calamity Ganon away. And so the power and time of the sages is spent on testing the hero and powering up the Master Sword. So I'm quite certain that these 7 monks at the end of the Master Sword trials are actually the 7 sages. Pretty good, huh? Well, we aren't done yet. We still have one theory left to discuss, and this one was suggested by a viewer named the Fierce Deity Master. And his question was, who made the Paraglider in Breath of the Wild? Which is quite a good one. So let's look into all of this. Now, this is a key item in the game, and allows you to glide in the air over long distances, being similar to other items like the Sailcloth from Skyward Sword and the Deku Leaf from The Wind Waker. Now, you get it near the beginning in the game after completing the shrines on the Great Plateau, but the person who gives it to you doesn't really give any information on its origins. You get it from the King of Hyrule after all, who's not even alive anymore, but a ghost who died 100 years ago. So who made this thing and why? Well, I have one idea of who could have made it, but it's a bit of an obvious one, to be honest. It could be that the Rito made it. This is one of the several races seen in Breath of the Wild, originating from Rito Village in the Tabanta frontier region. They primarily wield lightweight weapons and bows, such as the Swallow Bow or Falcon Bow, and their shields are designed to be used both on the ground and during aerial combat. And they are also known to have crafted feathered edges, feathered spears, and kite shields. Now, when you look at these items, you can see that the designs and materials used to make these items are very similar to the Paraglider. So in my opinion, it's quite obvious that the Rito probably made this item. However, Why would they ever do that? In Breath of the Wild, Ritos have a proud warrior culture and are masters of aerial combat, especially aerial archery. Aside from that, they also wear lightweight armor padding covered by a cloth similar in design to the armor padding of the snow quill tunic. So clearly attacking enemies from the sky and flying around is part of their tactic. And they can do this very well because they are basically bird people. And they use incredibly light gear. So why did they make this paraglider? The Rito don't have any use for it. Well, they did it because in a combat scenario, they aren't just fighting with other Ritos. They are allies with many other races in Hyrule after all, like the Zoras, Hylians, and Gorons. So I bet they made paragliders like the one Link has, so that the other races could travel around in the air as well. We even see a bunch of other people like Daruk use the exact same glider as Link has in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. And it could very well be that the king actually uses Link's old paraglider that he had before dying during the events of the Great Calamity. Now, we can't be sure about that, to be honest, but it would be very fitting. Now, personally, I think that giving paragliders to warriors that fight alongside Ritos is an amazing idea. Because just imagine the following: Ganon attacks, and the Rito roll out to take him down. And instead of all just flying there, they could use the Divine Beast. That machine has a huge deck similar to an aircraft carrier. So you can put a lot of warriors on there. At that point you can fly to their goal, bombard it with the Divine Beast, and then all the warriors jump off to attack, either flying away or using a paraglider to get down. This could easily work and would be highly effective. And they could have easily come up with such a tactic. They were preparing for Calamity Ganon in advance after all. So that's my theory when it comes to the origins of the paraglider. I know it's a bit simple, but I couldn't really find anything else. However, if you have any other ideas that I didn't mention, and this goes for all the theories in this video, then be sure to tell me about them down below in the comments. Now be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and click that bell button. And then I will see all of you in the next video.